Thanks for tuning in to another show in the Next Reel family of film podcasts.
Want to skip those ads and get early access?
Become a member at truestory.fm/join and discover all the other great perks that come with it.
I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to the Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Battle beyond the stars is over. I eat serpents 7 times a week. All right, Andy, I'm very excited to talk about this movie. Very excited, because it's so rare that I see a movie before you do, and I did watch this one some months back, and you had not. So please tell me what you thought of this movie. Did it live up to your extraordinarily high expectations?
Well, I had heard of this movie, and I think this movie existed in my head all this time up until now when I finally watched it for a few reasons. One is because James Horner had long been one of my favorite composers, and I actually had this soundtrack long before I ever saw this movie. So I'd heard this music a lot. And, you know, if you know anything about James Horner, he likes to reuse his own ideas and themes and stuff like that. And so you end up kind of hearing bits and pieces. And of course, it's coming from Roger Corman, and so Roger Corman also would end up reusing the music himself. And so I knew it because of James Horner. Like, that was probably the first reason I really knew about this. And then second is probably part of the series that this is a part of. This is part of our Seven Samurai family series. And I think because of that connection, probably back when we first did the Seven Samurai family, we covered like Seven Samurai, Magnificent Seven, both of them, Three Amigos, Bug's Life. This was on the list as another potential film that we could have discussed. And so I knew, okay, this is in some way, it's going to be a Seven Samurai retelling in space, and James Horner does the score. So that's all I knew really walking into this. And then I suppose, I should say, we also did an entire year's worth of conversations about Roger Corman as a year-long member bonus series. So 12 episodes, one each month, discussing different Roger Corman films. And so I really I felt a pretty good handle on what to expect coming into Roger Corman. We also talked about Mutant, and I'm forgetting the other name of it, but we talked about that film, which used some of the sets, like shared some of the sets and everything from this particular film. So in many ways, I kind of walked into this knowing what to expect and having grown an appreciation for the low budget craziness that you would sometimes find with these Roger Corman vehicles. And so walking into it with all of that, I gotta say, I had a lot of fun. I had a great time with this one. It's goofy. It's got, characters that I like. The fact that Robert Vaughn comes back to essentially reprise his role from Magnificent Seven really made me laugh. And so, yeah, it was, I mean, it's definitely a Roger Corman film, but I mean, they were clearly having fun with it. I was surprised to see so many faces I recognized in it, like a lot of character actors and older actors who kind of came back to be in this film. And they all were in it. Like, I didn't feel like anyone was just here for the paycheck. Like, they all seemed to be having a good time in this crazy, super cheap, but a lot of fun special effects sci-fi film. So, yeah, it worked for me.
It works for me too. It absolutely does. Or I think I would have been more bitter about having to watch it again. I think it's great that we actually have the Han Solo character who is a cowboy in space. That's a delightful thing. I love John Boy is in it, like as Luke. This is, and yes, we're going to keep going. I guarantee you that will not be the last comparison to Star Wars, because this movie is cashing in on Star Wars space hysteria. And also, it is low-key loving on some James Cameron art design. Like the fact that you can see so much James Cameron in this, and that he was working on this movie as he was as an art director, and that it portends to so much of the stuff that he would do later. Like, you can already see his very standout fingerprints all over the look and feel of this movie. I find that just delightful. And Murakami. I think Murakami's, I have not seen a lot of Murakami stuff, but just watching clips, you see this was clearly the biggest budget live action thing Murakami ever did. And his work in animation gives you a sense of, holy cow, this guy knows how to put together a frame. Like, there are some seriously punching above its class level shots in here that just look great. And in spite of all the little stuff that ties big moments together, there is a lot of this movie that looks great. And you can see, if there was a little more money, maybe a lot more money, this could have been something competitive.
Well, and I mean, I think the fact that also John Sayles pops up as the screenwriter, helps a little bit with that too.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
Like, it's surprising to see a lot of the names that we ended up seeing throughout the credits. Like, Gail Ann Hurd worked on this. It's the effects guy, Alan Holtzman, who directed Forbidden World or Mutant. Forbidden World.
Forbidden World.
The name. Yeah. Like, he directed that, and we talked about that one. And so he was working on this. You see a lot of the same kind of Corman types of people kind of throughout these credits. And we've all heard time and time again how so many people got their start working with Roger Corman, and you don't necessarily think about that until you're really actually watching one and you're seeing a lot of names come through the credits, and you're like, oh, this person started here and that person started here, and it's just all of these different departments. The Dennis and Robert Skotak, the two effects guys, are the ones I was thinking about who are working on this. And so it's exciting to see all of these people at a point where they're young and they're just playing and they're trying to, like, hey, we're going to make a space movie. Let's make a spaceship that's got boobs. Like, all the crazy things that they are coming up with in order to kind of create this world. The different characters, like, every one of our races that we end up meeting all felt wholly unique and realized. And I enjoyed the way that we kind of get a sense of the backstories, kind of the different groups that we have, and that made for a great amount of world building in something that, again, wasn't a hugely expensive project.
Do you have a favorite character or race? I mean, it's a leading question because I do. So if you don't have one right off the dome, I'll go first.
I mean, I have to say it's our Valkyrie, Sybil Danning. The fact that she comes across as somebody who's, I don't know, the way that John Boy, Shad, sees her, like, I always kind of like, I'm like, it's weird the way that he reads her, because she comes across as somebody who's just like, she's got a very tiny ship and she's just playing tag essentially with him just to see, like, to show him how tough she is.
Yeah.
And stuff. But she actually is a great warrior. And the fact that she's a Valkyrie, or, as we understand just the idea of what Valkyries are in our context, it was fun to kind of see her kind of continue that pursuit to be part of this, and then actually do a great job, like, kicking butt. Plus, she was gorgeous. She had very interesting and revealing outfits. I enjoyed her, so she'd be my favorite.
I enjoyed her because the way we were introduced, as you say there, she was playing tag. The way she was introduced, her ship was introduced, I thought that she was like a miniature creature, like she was in a very tiny spaceship that was flying around. I didn't make sense. He's like, you're really annoying. Like, she was the relative size of a fly. And it turns out she's not. She's real sized in a small ship, but it's not fly sized. I wanted her to be fly sized.
Very Hitchhiker's Guide idea that
Yes.
you had there.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's very funny.
My favorite, and I think it's something, I don't know, tell me if you can think of it. I can't recall ever seeing thermal creatures, quite like the pair that we have in here. Not just that they're very hot, but that they communicate by temperature, right? So he's very hot. Well, he must be saying hello. I thought that was so novel. Like I've never seen anything like that, I don't think. Probably Star Trek original series, and I'm just not remembering, but that felt really new and interesting to me.
And that idea of the way that they operate, they don't have ears, so the sonic tank that the villain has doesn't bother them. And then they use their heat to destroy it and a bunch of troops, and of course in the process themselves. But that was a really interesting idea. I completely agree.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool. So you mentioned, as much as I thought this was the series of science fiction spaceships with breasts, this is a Seven Samurai series. What does this movie get right about its allegiance to the Seven Samurai motif?
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. I mean, obviously, it's much shorter. We're just over an hour and a half, like about an hour 45, and as opposed to the 4-hour film. So we're getting a lot less time of building these characters and really getting a full sense. And I mean, I do think that we have a decent enough sense of who's filling in for these 7 warriors that join to fight. They're not, I think it's fair to say they're much thinner, but they still work. Like, we still have a sense of who they are. And so initially, the premise of Seven Samurai, for those who can't recall, is there's a small village and they are continuously raided by a group of bandits who come and steal all their grain, leaving them with little food, and they're struggling to survive. And so they send a few people out to go find, since they're farmers and they can't battle themselves, they go out to find some warriors to come back who can help them. And so in the process, they end up finding these 7 samurai. And that's what we get here. We have this small, essentially a village on this small planet of Akira, which I thought was great because you call the people Akira, just like Kurosawa.
Yep.
Which I really enjoyed. This farm world is threatened by Sador, this warlord who wants to plunder the planet. And so they send out an emissary, Shad, played by Richard Thomas, who we've called John Boy a few times, but I don't know. I generally think of him as Wonder Boys. That's where my brain goes first with him, and then John Boy. But he goes out to find these warriors. And so in the scope of what they set out to do, yes, it's all very futuristic. Yes, it's a nod to Star Wars because we've got a bunch of people in space going around building a team. That's like the first half of Star Wars is spent building this team of people to then go attack the Death Star. Here we have him finding these potential warriors that he can bring back to his world to help them battle Sador. And we find a variety of different people. Some of them have a grudge against Sador and want to do it. Some are bored and are like, well, there's got to be something else for us to do. So sure, we'll come along with you. In Robert Vaughn's case, he is plundered himself and he's incredibly rich, but he's just like, everybody in the galaxy is after me. So sure, I'll just come do this since there's, I want to get away from all these other people. And so we end up building a team. And so that all works. And then they come together and they battle the bandits. So in the scope of Seven Samurai, I think they actually do a really good job of crafting the story, giving us these warrior characters that come on board and work to fight Sador and bring him down.
Yeah, I do too. I think you called it, though. Like the movie does its Seven Samurai stuff different just because it's not so long, right? It is like all the real significant development. It occurs in Seven Samurai. We come to love the characters on the team because we get to spend a lot of time with them as they transition from self-interest to collective commitment. right? And that is a lot of what that movie is doing. That it really leans in on building the team so that by the time they are working together and fighting together, it's, we're on board. And I think this film tracks this, but it has to do it very quickly, and it has to do it through tiny moments of camaraderie, right? Like a shared meal, isolated sort of moments of respect. By the final battle, like, I feel like we have a unit that is willing to sacrifice for each other and for people they don't know, and their individual reasons have come together. And it's a little bit of the movie's sleight of hand that it's able to make me feel that way without the same amount of exposition that we get in the original, in Seven Samurai. And maybe it's because Seven Samurai is, of course, doing a lot of shorthand, heavy lifting. I know where the movie's going, and so I want them to come together, and I'm already on the team, by the time they come together. But yeah, I think the movie leverages that piece really cleanly, surprisingly cleanly, given its nature.
Yeah, and unlike last week's film, we talked about the Indian film Sholay, which only has two people, and so it definitely still is Seven Samurai, but it's two people, two thieves who are helping this village. That film really didn't rely on the other important element of Seven Samurai, where the samurai say, we're going to train you farmers how to fight, how to protect your village, because we're not always going to be here. You're going to have to know how to do this for yourselves. And so they actually work to kind of train these people. We don't get that in Sholay, but we do have that here. We see these people on the ground, and that's a big part with George Peppard's character. He says, I don't have a ship that can fight in space. What I do have is a bunch of weapons, and I can train people on the ground for the ground combat. So that's his role as Space Cowboy, is showing all these people how to use the weapons, and in the process also falling in love. But, that's just a little side part of the story. But I think that plays in the scope of this film is that we don't have the farmers up in space battling. That's reserved for just these fighters. But we do have them doing the on-the-ground battling. And so I thought that actually was a nice element that worked in the context of this film.
Yeah, I do. I'm glad you brought that up. I had completely forgotten about that in Sholay. We did talk about that we have no training the townspeople. And this movie, we get it again, and I like it. I like that, sidebar on George Peppard. Like, come on. I love George Peppard so much. Like, just the legacy of stuff that I have watched with George Peppard. Maybe you could say it starts and ends with the A-Team, but it's that would be all I really need to talk about. But the fact that he has such an incredible catalog of 70s and 80s television, that's when I was watching TV. It's when I watched the most of my TV, and he was right there.
He was on, how many episodes was the A-Team? Because he was
97.
Yeah, and so he pretty much, they didn't quite hit the magical 100, huh?
Nope.
I've never seen a complete episode of the A-Team. That was not a show I was watching.
What?
I know, isn't that weird? Like, that show just didn't make it in my lineup of shows I was watching.
I don't know what to. Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Do we need to start a new podcast?
Just go through every episode of the A-Team. Oh man.
To that end, Baracus, Hannibal, come on.
I know, but I don't think, since I missed that show, that would have been probably the TV that I would have seen him on, right?
Yeah.
I don't think there was anything else that he was in on TV that I was ever watching.
No, he was on stuff like Doctor's Hospital and Banachek and those, but those were in the 70s. Like, his biggest thing was, what was his experience of the A-Team from 83 to 87. So
Yeah, that was a big chunk of time. And he was in a lot of movies like Pork Chop Hill and How the West Was Won and The Blue Max. But again, I've seen very few of his films. So he's an actor. I've seen a few films that he's been in that are kind of probably less important for his filmography, like Damnation Alley. I don't think that's one you want to call like an important one to check off to make sure you've seen to understand him and his career.
You won't.
And so, yeah, no. And How the West Was Won, like he's in that, but so are like hundreds of other people. Like that's a massive film. And Breakfast at Tiffany's, honestly, I can't remember who he was in that. But I think that's it. Like I have seen very little of him. And I feel like it's because of the A-team shaped hole in my heart that I have just completely missed.
And that's a legitimate one. Like that's just such a pop culture black hole that you're living with there. I don't like as a youth of the 80s. I don't understand it. It makes me a little uncomfortable.
Oh,
one that I haven't seen of his that I really feel like I need to is House of Cards, 1968. Have you seen that one?
No, because when I hear House of Cards, I generally just think of the David Mamet one.
Yes. Well, this is one that has some high praise of his work, and I feel like that is a House of Cards shaped tiny hole in my catalog. That's okay. That's not as bad as yours.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like an interesting film, so I should add that one to my list of films to watch. But
yeah.
But I mean, here, I think he does a great job as Space Cowboy. He has kind of a laconic, not quite swagger, but he feels very just like, yeah, sure. Let's like the funniest thing with him is when he's being bombarded by the shots and his force field is just bouncing all. It's when we first meet him and he's calling on his intercom and he's just like, please, Mayday. Like his reaction was like so funny, just the way that he did that. I had a great time with him as one of our key characters that we have here.
Yes. We go to ask Dr. Hephaestus for help, and we meet Dr. Hephaestus's head. Turns out Dr. Hephaestus has spent his time making a bunch of androids. And so we meet the androids. So I'd like your general aesthetic review of the androids, Dr. Hephaestus and his daughter, and how you think that holds together, meeting Nestor too, and the team.
And Anelia,
yeah.
Well, one thing that I did chuckle at, because I've also just ended up, after watching this movie, I watched The Asphalt Jungle again in preparation for an upcoming CinemaScope episode where we're talking about heist films. And it was really funny to see Sam Jaffe as Dr. Hephaestus, who plays the doc in The Asphalt Jungle, the one who puts the whole plan together.
Yeah.
So it was just like 30 years later, it was fun to see him still popping up in stuff like this where he's the head of this.
Literally the head.
I don't know. Is the rest of his body now an android? Like, has he preserved himself that way?
He's a real ship of Thebes. Yeah, I thought that was really funny.
Yeah. I enjoyed that world, like the idea that that's what he's doing now. They say he's probably not going to be any use to you because he's changed. He's doing things differently now. And yeah, he's now at this point where he is just focused on building his androids, which we meet a few of, and one of them ends up accompanying Nenelia as she goes down to the planet. We see him like in the background in the fights and stuff. So I don't know. That was an interesting idea to have this doctor who is doing nothing but churning out androids. And that's like his life's work now. And working with his daughter, who we never know what happened about the mother. That is never brought up. But he has a daughter and she's helping him with his work and becomes one of the team, one of the 7 that joins Shad, and also the love interest. And it's important to have somebody who's going to also want to explore this idea of kissing and mating and things like that.
Right. Do we have kissing on our planet? Let's find out.
That's right. Sorry.
The androids, there are 2 of them that get speaking roles, I think. One of them, Nestor 1, is Earl Bowen, who is I thought it was really fun to see Earl Boen walking around here because, we know Earl Boen from lots of things like MASH but mostly from the Terminator movies. He's Dr. Silberman. And so it was fun to see him in here. And the other is Nestor 2, who I did not recognize until I went to his IMDb page and saw that he was in Oppenheimer. He was a part in Oppenheimer, which I think is, I don't know, there's something about that. Talking about John Gowans.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that's a career, right?
Interesting. He was in Star Trek The Motion Picture. Wow. Yeah. He played Ward Evans in Oppenheimer. I'll have to watch that again just to see who Ward Evans is. I cannot remember.
I was not tracking Ward Evans when I watched that movie, for sure.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a who's who. It's a bit of a who's who movie, especially of actors who are starting their careers and would go on to work with and become, great contributors in their own way. And it just goes back to the Corman Film Academy that his films became.
Yeah. I mentioned Sybil Danning. I don't know if she's somebody I've seen in anything else. I was trying to remember if she popped up in anything, because again, she's easy to fall in love with in this movie here. I just watched Amazon Women on the Moon recently, and she's the queen of the Amazon women in that particular film. But I don't know if I don't recall talking about her in any of the other movies that we discussed. Did we?
I don't think we have. And boy, I mean, have we done anything else?
No, I guess I was thinking she looked familiar because I thought she was in a Roger Corman film, but I think it actually was because I had just seen her in Amazon Women on the Moon.
No, I don't think so. But we have seen movies with Sybil Danning in them for sure. Concord, wow, that goes way back. Yeah, she's fantastic. I mean, what fun.
Yeah. Let's see. Robert Vaughn, we talked about, the assassin. I think he plays it well. We haven't talked about who have we missed of our team. We have,
let's see. Well, John Saxon is not on the team, obviously, but in terms of, the actors, John Saxon's fun to see show up as Sador. I don't think we've name dropped him yet. We have talked about him, I'm sure, right? Black Christmas. We talked about.
Yeah, we haven't covered the and Enter the Dragon.
Yep.
We haven't covered any of the Nightmare on Elm Street films.
We've talked about some Elm Street on Sitting in the Dark, Sitting in the Dark, where podcasts are served.
Yeah. And he was I'm sure we didn't mention him, but he was the movie premiere usher in A Star Is Born, the 1954 Judy Garland version. So,
isn't that why we watched that? I'm sure that was why. It was the John Saxon collection.
That's so funny. That is so funny. Anyway, I always enjoy seeing John Saxon, and I think it's like his character is funny in that he's surrounded by these mutants, and he's always complaining about the fact that why do I have to have all the crappy mutants, like the ones they'll have like these gashes on their heads. They're all just like poorly put together. And then he is this person who is always trying to rebuilding himself. Like I don't know if his body is falling apart or what, but it's like he kills this one of these. I'm blanking on what the group are that he kills. The Caymans? They're the Caymans, right?
Were those were all the all white?
Yeah, the Caymans of the Lambda Zone.
Yes,
they're Lazuli. Yeah.
And you know what? I think I'm totally wrong. Can I issue a correction real quick?
Yeah.
They were the ones that were all Nestor. That was John Gowan and Earl Boen.
Those are you're right. And Cayman, is the lizard guy.
Yes, who traveled with the thermal crew. Right.
He's got the thermal crew.
Whew.
Yeah. Anyway, it's the Nestors. Sador kills one of the Nestors because they have a zero tolerance for pain, and all they do is one tiny cut. He dies.
They die.
But he takes his arm, and that was I don't know. It's such an interesting element of Sador that you know what. I'm just going to keep this for myself, and I want to use it because I'm constantly replacing my body parts. And so he puts the Sador or the Nestor arm on himself. But because the Nestors are like a Borg type of entity, they now, the rest of them can control that arm. And so they try to use it to kill him, to have him kill himself, which fails. But
so good.
I enjoyed that immensely. I had a great time watching the Nestors and that element as it related to Sador, because that was just an interesting element to that character.
Well, and the lab, like where he does all of his limb replacement, I thought was actually very funny, because they cut off Nestor's arm with a giant chainsaw that did not spin fast enough, and all of the teeth like lit up as little crystals. We didn't see any of the actual chopping of the arm, but I thought it was particularly amusing when they do cut the arm off. Like the machines that he's moving into place seem very precise, and they're using a giant chainsaw to cut off this arm as if it's the most sophisticated, with piece of equipment.
Giant chainsaw, but with teeth that go like, or like the teeth move so slowly around. I'm like, are they moving so fast that it appears they're going slowly? Like, I couldn't figure out, like, or is this just really cheap?
So cheap.
So just like, they're like laser chainsaw, so it doesn't have to move fast. I don't know what their idea was, but it was it made me laugh out loud when I saw that chainsaw in action.
Yeah. I thought that was very funny too. So,
yeah. But yeah, so Morgan Woodward played Cayman. He's the lizard person who's got a score to settle with Sador because Sador destroyed his species. And I love that exchange between them. He's just like, well, I consider it an honor to do it today, or whatever he says. You like to, if I can kill you, then I have actually wiped the species out. I thought that was a great little backstory that we had between the two characters.
Yeah, I do too. I thought that was really fun.
I don't know a whole lot about Morgan Woodward, but he is a big-time Western actor. He'd been in a lot of Western TV shows and stuff like that, and I guess he'd also appeared on Star Trek a few times.
Yeah, Cool Hand Luke, nice.
Cool Hand Luke. Okay, yeah,
yeah. He's and The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. He did an episode. Tell me that was on your list, Briscoe County Jr.
It was not on my list.
Andy, for crying out loud. You weren't following the early works of Bruce Campbell either?
Oh, man. Let's see. Who else? We've got Jeff Corey, who we've, I think, talked about on the show. He's the blind warrior, kind of the head of the Akira people who used to fly the ship, but now can't because he's going blind. And so Shad takes over. And Jeff Corey is just one of those faces that's, you see in a gazillion things because he's all over the place. And there was an actress. This is what happens with these Corman films. Like there was an actress who played, it's Julia Duffy. She played Shad's sister.
Yes.
And she gets taken and then killed.
Julia Duffy was in Newhart.
Yeah, right. She gets taken and killed. And she was a face. I'm like, oh, I totally recognize that face. I'm glad you said Newhart, because that's exactly what it was.
Yep. And I was so upset because Newhart, that was another show that I watched a lot of. And when I was a teen, I had a crush on Julia Duffy. And she was in this movie for a hot second.
I know.
I thought, this is going to be a little nostalgia play. It'll be fun to see what else Julia Duffy is doing. Nothing. Was Julia Duffy related somehow to Patrick Duffy?
I don't think so. No. Doesn't look that way. But again, another face, another someone to see in here. So
wow. Yeah. That was a bummer.
Yeah, it has to happen, I suppose. And then it was who is it who is the voice of the ship? Nell. Did you recognize her?
Oh, she did sound familiar, didn't she?
Lynn Carlin. She did. Yeah.
What do we know Lynn Carlin from? I feel like that was a voice I was trying to place over and over again, but I didn't. In looking at her credits, I'm not seeing anything that I feel like I would have really known her from.
Again, TV stuff. She was in Faces, John Cassavetes' film. A lot of TV, a lot of little parts in movies and stuff. Not as many movies. This is actually her second to last movie that she did. So it seems like mostly TV work for her. And, a number of things where I'm trying to look through here to see if there's anything where it was a full season of something, mostly an episode here or there. So James at 15. I'm not familiar with that show, but she was a series regular on that particular show. And then a lot of TV movies, guest spots on shows and TV movies.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Her voice sounded so familiar, though.
I know. Makes me wonder if she's done a bunch of audiobooks or something,
Yeah. But, I mean, I think that they assembled a great cast here and built an interesting team that, again, not 4 hours. They have much less time to tell this story. But they do an effective job of giving me a sense of who these characters are, what their reasons are for joining the fight, and it plays. I think the whole thing ends up playing quite well. I had a good time watching this. If anybody I felt was, I don't want to say weak link, because I actually enjoyed pretty much everybody in it, but I will say Richard Thomas as Shad, it could just be the way that he was written as kind of like the young person who's collecting all these interesting characters. Because he's surrounded by so many interesting characters, he ends up by default kind of seeming less interesting. I don't want to fault him for that or the script for that, but I want to get to the other characters because I find them to be much more fun. I don't know. How did you feel about Richard Thomas as our main entry into this film?
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree. I think Richard Thomas comes up at the end and gives us a sequence of maturation, right? His final scenes, I think his final interactions are filled with grief for losses, but also kind of determination to honor all these sacrifices that were made. This is a movie where at the very end he gets a chance to reconcile with loss. I actually think that's another bit that gives him a chance to be bigger than the part. For the rest of the movie, though, for an hour and a half, Richard Thomas exists for the other characters to bounce off of. And as a utility player, that's great. As a protagonist, it's a little thin.
Yeah, I think that's probably where I lie with it. And that could just be early scripting trying to figure it out, and he just ends up coming across as less interesting. And I mean, he gets the moments with Nanelia and everything, but again, there could have been more interest with him. But again, I think that's also, I could say the same with Seven Samurai. I remember the Seven Samurai a lot more than I remember the Villagers.
For sure. Yeah, same thing. They're designed for the more charismatic characters to bounce off of. I think Murakami and Sayles knew that, right? I think that's in the script. I think that's on screen. I think this is a film that captures wit in the form of our Seven Samurai characters and nowhere else. And that's what it was supposed to do.
Yeah, I think so. But you could tell they were trying to figure out, well, what can we do with him? Is there more that we can do? And again, we end up having the relationship. And I'm trying to remember, I know that there ended up being some relationships between farmer and samurai. There's the young samurai who ends up falling for one of the women. I think that's the only relationship that develops. And here we end up getting two, because Space Cowboy also falls for one of the women and wants her to come off and fly off with him.
Yeah. It's practically Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, is what you're saying.
Practically. Yeah. We're almost there.
As one of the Star Wars ripoffs, how well do you think the movie stands on its own?
I think that it plays well. And I think the reason that it does so is because I don't feel like they said, okay, we need to come up with a Star Wars story, take the Star Wars story and modify it enough to make our own version of Star Wars. They didn't. They said, take Star Wars, let's go back to Seven Samurai. Let's go back to the Magnificent Seven. Let's play with that and use that, but we'll put it in space, so it's creating a Star Wars, this whole galaxy far, far away. And to that end, I think it ends up playing quite well.
It's funny, the James Cameron-ness of it all, right? It's hard to watch this movie and not see Ridley Scott written all over it, right? A little bit. He goes into that one area of the ship, and it is Mother, right? It is Mother with the white ribbed padding all over the walls. And I think it's interesting that we get such an homage like to that movie just the year prior, and that some of those visual elements are reused in his own take on it. I think this all goes back to how smart this film is in standing on the shoulders of greats, right? I mean, this is a film that I think is original enough to actually be a fun watch on its own. I don't think you need to have seen any of these other movies to get the full scope of what this movie is trying to accomplish. I think Richard Thomas is milquetoast for most of it, even though he's dressed as like a low-rent Battlestar Galactica knockoff of Luke Skywalker. He's doing his part, and George Peppard's in a cowboy hat. What more do you need in a movie like this? And it's a movie that successfully saves a lot of villagers.
They do succeed, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
Yeah, I had a great time. So, anything else?
No, I'm good. I think we've saved all the villagers that need to be saved here.
I think we have. All right, well, we will be right back, but first, our credits.
The Next Reel is a production of True Story FM, engineering by Andy Nelson, music by Gal Lev, score maestro, Aviad Zinamanas, Oriel Novella, and Eli Catlin. Andy usually finds all the stats for the awards and numbers at b-numbers.com, boxofficemojo.com, imdb.com, and wikipedia.org. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, please consider doing that for our show. Oh, sure. Nell gets all the screen time. Nell with her motherly AI and her distinctive design choices. Nell gets to nurture the hero. Nell gets the memorable dialogue. Nell practically gets her own character arc. And me? I'm just the ship that carries the guy with the clones. I don't even get a name in most reviews. You know what I do when I'm not getting proper recognition? I log my films on Letterboxd. That's right, the social network for film lovers, where every movie gets documented, every performance gets acknowledged, even the supporting spacecraft. You can track what you watch, rate it, review it, make lists like ships that deserved better, or underappreciated production design, or times Roger Corman reused my exterior shots in later films. And here's the thing, Nell doesn't even have a Letterboxd account. Too busy being iconic. Look, whether you're a sentient starship tired of being overlooked, or just a regular film fan who wants to remember every movie you've seen, Letterboxd is for you. And the Next Reel listeners get 20% off Letterboxd Pro or Patron. That's 20% off, which even I think is generous, and I'm bitter about everything. Just go to thenextreel.com/letterboxd. That's thenextreel.com/letterboxd. And your discount is automatically applied. Works on subscriptions and renewals. Because every film deserves to be remembered, even the ones where you're just hovering there in the background, watching Nell get all the attention. Letterboxd. Track films. Share your taste. Get the recognition you deserve, unlike some of us. Sequels and remakes. For a movie that falls so deep into the fabric of movies that are sequeled and remade about other things, does this even count?
Well, what's funny is, with a movie that's a success for Roger Corman, you think that Roger Corman would make a sequel. But Roger Corman wasn't like, I don't know, you don't think of many Roger Corman sequels, right?
No.
So he just goes and makes a different thing that's slightly different. So In 2010, though, we did have a prequel comic book. This is set 30 years before this story takes place. And this is how Zed, who's now old and blind, how he began his adventures flying around with Nell, his spaceship, from the planet Akira and kind of exploring. So that's kind of the prequel version of it.
Okay.
Then, and this really doesn't tie into any sequels or remakes, but it's Roger Corman. It's important to note that the footage has been used in countless places. The Starship footage was used in Space Raiders, another Roger Corman sci-fi film, as well as Star Quest II, Vampirella, The Fantastic Four, the infamous Roger Corman version, Dead Space, and, as we've mentioned, Forbidden World. The same footage was also reused later in films and video games. A clip from the film in 3D is shown during the movie theater fight at the end of Bachelor Party, which I went and revisited that end just to remind myself in that. Now, there's a whole fight sequence in that movie that isn't from this, but when we cut to the ships, it is absolutely from this movie.
Yeah.
Also, footage was used for the Laserdisc game called Astron Belt. I already mentioned the soundtrack. Corman recycled the music for Raptor, along with a number of other films, and sections of Horner's score reused also in Space Raiders. So, yes, you can find bits and pieces of this all over the place because that's Roger Corman for you.
How did it do at award season? I wonder if you know off the dome how many awards Roger Corman has won for all of his films.
That's a good question. I would imagine not many. but interestingly enough, this actually did get 5 nominations with 1 win, 4 other nominations, all at the Saturn Awards. This film was well enough received to actually be recognized over there. It was nominated for Best Science Fiction Film, but lost to a very big film that came out that same year, Empire Strikes Back. It was nominated for Best Costumes, but lost to Somewhere in Time, which is an interesting one. I suppose it's more just because authentic period pieces versus these interesting sci-fi outfits. Best makeup, but lost to a tie between Scanners and Altered States. Best special effects, again, losing to Empire Strikes Back. It did win 1 award, though, and it was an outstanding achievement. The Golden Scroll of Merit went to Sybil Danning for her part as the Valkyrie of this film.
Golden Scroll of Merit.
Yeah, what an interesting film. Well, an interesting name for an award.
Yeah. I went out to dinner with some friends last night, and the guys talking about like what he needs to do the next step, and he's in the military, and the next step in his career, he's going to need a letter of indispensability. That sounds like a golden scroll of merit. It really,
totally does.
We all need a letter of indispensability. I'm putting that in my email signature, like everywhere. Golden Scroll of Merit.
Yeah.
Email. Well, all right. How to do at the box office? I think we're going to be pleased.
That's right. For his film, Murakami had a budget of around $2 million or $7.7 million in today's dollars. The movie opened July 25th, 1980, and it did well enough for itself, going on to earn $11 million or $42.2 million in today's dollars. That lands the film with an adjusted profit per finished minute of $332,000. But more importantly for Corman, it means the film went on to earn 5.5 times its budget. I'd say that's a great investment for Corman.
I know you don't have this up, so I'm going to ask so I can make you spin. Where does that put it in the Corman movies we talked about on the AppFM? It's the best, right? You don't need to go that far. 5X?
I honestly can't say. I don't know. I can't remember. The others are so cheap.
Yeah,
It's possible
shop.
They did well.
Okay. All right.
I would be curious how this one fared. I didn't check this. Like, how did this fare with Star Wars? What was the budget for Star Wars?
Yes. Yeah.
Star Wars 1977, $11 million. So there you go. This one was 2.
Yeah. Wow. But Star Wars also earned more than 5X its budget.
A little bit. Yeah. A little bit.
All right. Well, I am thrilled to have talked about it, and it may be a little bit troubling in our rating discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I had fun watching this. This is one that I certainly hope to revisit. I had a great time with it. So, all right. Well, that is it, everybody, for today's conversation. Next week, we're looking at Jean Niculescu's The Invincible Six, closing out this series.
Do you think the six will be able to do it, or would they have needed one more?
I don't know. It's like the Ocean's 11. It's like, is 10 enough? 10?
Yeah.
11.
That's what it feels like.
It's like that same sort of thing. So we'll be right back.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Come over here. I've been watching you, kid. I've seen the way you look at the old movie posters, the way your eyes light up when you talk about your favorite films. You've got the spark, the passion.
You're not like those cinematic saboteurs, are you? You know, the ones I'm talking about. They're the ones who see films as a mere background noise, who let the art of cinema fade into obscurity while they scroll mindlessly through their feeds. They're the ones who have forgotten the power of film to inspire, to educate, to transform. But there's hope. The Galactic Film Federation. We're on a mission to save cinema, to preserve the art of film discussion and analysis, and we need recruits like you. This is your ticket in, a membership to the next reel. With it, you'll have access to a whole universe of film content, early access to episodes, ad-free listening, exclusive bonus content. It's all part of the package. And it's not just the Next Reel Film Podcast, oh no. CinemaScope, The Film Board, Movies We Like, Sitting in the Dark. They're all part of our network, all fighting the good fight. I'm offering you a chance to be part of something bigger than yourself, a chance to explore the vast reaches of cinema, to discuss and analyze and appreciate the art form that brings us all together. All you have to do is head to truestory.fm/join and enlist. That's truestory.fm/join. $5 a month or $55 a year. A small price to pay for the chance to save cinema from the cinematic saboteurs, don't you think? Think about it, kid, but don't think too long. These cinematic saboteurs, they're not going to wait around. We need all the recruits we can get. The Galactic Film Federation. The next reel. truestory.fm/join. Your cinema needs you.
Letterboxd, Andy. Letterboxd.com/the next reel. That's where you can find our all of our reviews and our ratings for all the movies we talk about on this show. Is where we apportion our stars and hearts for all the movies. Now, Andy, I did a little bit of research. I gave Forbidden Planet 3 stars and a heart.
Forbidden World.
I feel like I just need to say that. Forbidden World.
Yeah.
It's different. 3 stars and a heart. So I had to say that before I go into this movie. So what are you going to do for this one?
What did I give that one? Probably...
You gave it 2.5.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. 2.5 stars and a heart.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
No, I didn't. I'm looking at it, man.
You know, I think I enjoyed this more than Forbidden World, but I don't think I enjoyed it too much more. But this is the thing with these films. It's like, I don't necessarily find them to be like great cinema, but they're awfully fun. So I think it's fair to go, do I go 3? Do I go 3.5? Either way, it's getting a heart. I'm going to say 3.5 and a heart with this one. I had a fun time with this. It's cheesy. It's a lot of fun. And this would be an easy one to return to.
I agree on all counts. My problem is that I gave Forbidden Planet 3 stars. My initial thinking was that this was going to be 3 stars, but I liked this one more. So then it should be 4 stars, one would think.
Or it could be 3.5, Pete. Just saying.
I don't understand what you're saying.
I forgot. Pete, no half stars, right?
Here's my solution to this problem, Andy. I think I'm going to give this 3 stars and a heart, and I'm going to re-rank Forbidden Planet World to 2 stars and a heart.
You can have them both 3 stars, even if you liked one more than the other. I mean,
You can?
you can't live in a world of just 5 films with one on each of the tiers. Like, it's inevitably you're going to have multiple films at 3 stars. Let me just explain how this works for you, because clearly you're confused.
Let's go. Keep explaining. I think this is why people show up.
Right. So 3 stars.
Yeah, I'm
going to
give it 3 stars in a
But
heart.
I'm just saying.
That's where it lives.
I'm just saying you don't have to re-rank Forbidden World if you don't want to.
Well, we'll see what happens when Forbidden Planet World comes up.
Okay. All right. Well, that's that averages out to 3.25 stars and a heart, which rounds to 3.5, which you can find on our account at Letterboxd at The Next Reel. You can find me there at Soda Creek Film, and you can find Pete there at Pete Wright. So, what did you think about Battle Beyond the Stars? We would love to hear your thoughts. Hop into the Show Talk channel over at our Discord community, where we will be talking about the movie this week.
When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Letterboxd give it, Andrew.
As Letterboxd always doeth.
All right. There are only 8 fans of this movie.
Oh.
So, what do you got?
I went low. I wanted to go to the bottom of the barrel and see who's hanging out down there. And I've got a 0.5 star, Pete. 0.5 star by Greg Roberts, who says this: Tubi has no standards. Neither do I, apparently, as I've seen this 4 times since its release.
You know what? I'm going to cheat. I've got 2, 1 long, 1 short. Get ready. 4 stars and a heart from Carlo V, who says, with a good script, a good director can produce a masterpiece. With the same script, a mediocre director can produce a passable film. But with a bad script, even a good director can't possibly make a good film. For truly cinematic expression, the camera and the microphone must be able to cross both fire and water. The script must be something that has the power to do this. Akira Kurosawa. One of the space samurai should have really big boobies. Roger Corman, probably. Okay, the next one is from Cinema Void. It's 3.5 stars. Roger Corman's answer to the hegemonic masculinity of the Millennium Falcon: a uterine-shaped starship with huge metal knockers and laser ovaries. I just say that because I feel like we undersold the anatomical connections to this giant spaceship.
Oh my God, yes. Yes, we did.
Oh, thanks, Letterboxd. You are the best.